So hello everyone. My name is Preetesh, and Clemenda has already talked many things about me. But yeah, definitely I'll try my best in terms of what knowledge I can impart to the audience here, and which can be useful for the audience. So let me quickly share the screen and set the agenda for our conversation. What we have done is that I think I don't want to make it a very heavy textual slide for everyone. I think it's better if we talk to each other, ask questions. So as Clemenda already pointed out, feel free to either put your questions in chat, or maybe you can always ask, when we are shifting from the slides, or maybe towards the end, as howsoever you feel it. I think let's make it interactive rather than one-way communication. What we are going to cover in today's session is, of course, what is data and analytics. So we'll try to understand, take you towards the journey of what is data, what is analytics, how the amalgamation of two helps customers, and of course, our day-to-day world. As a career option, of course, many of you would want to join this wagon wheel of data analytics. I think if each one of us is hearing day in, day out in newspapers, in print media, digital media, social media about analytics, AI, ML, etc. So we're going to focus a little bit on that as well. And of course, we're going to give you some of our experiences in terms of maybe how you can start the journey. So we're not going to really cover the complex side of it, or maybe going more in the maturity when we look at the data science as a field, but at least help you take little tiny steps in terms of how you can begin the journey and enter this wonderful industry, which we are all part of. Okay. So I think I'm a person who likes to make it interactive. So what is data and analytics? I would want to hear it from, of course, people who have joined this conversation. So what do they understand? Maybe let's have a quick, like a two-way communication. So anyone who wants to talk about their perspective, what is data and analytics, I'd be keen to hear. Then let me look at the participant list. I think we have quite a good list here. So I can see many people here. So I would want in some volunteers. So what is their understanding about data and analytics? And then of course, Mayank and I will provide our perspective, but just wanted to hear out from the audience. Anyone who wants to take a shot?
So I'll take that shot, if you allow me, Mayank.
Yeah, please. Tell first your name, I think, and then yeah, we can talk about it.
My name is Nitin. Okay, so basically, when we talk about data analytics or whatever data you have, we just try to understand what that data is trying to convey to us. Basically, any insights basis that whatever perspective we can get from that data, it is helpful to take the further decisions. Basically, for an example, if we have certain data about companies progress, so whether we are on the right track, making a good number of sales, or maybe good number, like for example today we have 30 participants. We'll try to understand how many there were, how many people were actually attentive. From that data on, we'll be able to understand that. So probably we, from a careful analysis, we get more insights which will be helpful to drive our decisions further. Pritesh, you are on mute.
I think one of the insights which is coming through what was mentioned is that definitely data analytics is all about generating insights from the data. It's a beautiful attempt. Anyone else would like to contribute?
So my name is Vishal. So basically, data and data analytics is the thing where we can collect the data, clean the data, and then make the data frame to create or to give some insights on the basis of visualizations and uh, many platforms. So
Okay.
so basically, data analytics gives us the fair. It means fair insights, or we can give the fair insights to make a decisions which will helpful to growth of the organization, or growth of the some business units, or growth of the some
Okay.
operations.
So I think one of the interesting thing which really came out, Vishal, I hope I'm pronouncing your name correctly. I think he
Yes.
mentioned about collecting data, and then of course assimilating that data, aggregating that data, and then going for insights on top of that, right? So any last person who would want to take a shot before I further begin and give our perspective on this? Okay, fair enough. That's fine.
Hello, this is Krishna
Yeah,
Jaswal.
Krishna, please go ahead. Yeah.
Basically, data analytic convert the raw data into the actionable insights, which include
Uh-huh.
range of tool and everything,
Okay. Okay.
technology process.
Yeah, that's great to hear actually. So what we have also done, like I did not mention at the start, but we have a interesting Excel file where we have captured some data. It's a real data. So we'll see how those actionable insights can turn into. So I think that will be fun to watch right at the end. So yeah, I think the key messages which I'm getting from the audience is one is maybe how do we accumulate data, how do we collect data, how do we generate insights on top of that, and then those insights, if they are useful for business, that make an impact, right? So that's about data and analytics. We discuss it from, I mean, we have gathered from this audience only. So thank you for your perspective. So before like really answering what is data analytics or data analytics as a field, let's dissect this into two words: data and analytics. Okay, very interesting. Um, Let me. I think what is data and where is this coming from? Of course, data, every each one of us is actually getting bombarded with data these days, right? So if we see, whether in form of a social media, definitely we go to our Facebook, WhatsApp, there's a lot of things happening, exchange of information. There are a lot of, if you see the smart watches which we are wearing right now, many of us are already giving our data in terms of our pulse rate, in terms of our BP, in terms of our SpO2 reading, right? So the data is getting captured whether you are consciously aware of it or not, in and around your surroundings, right? Now imagine if I am a healthcare insurer, and if I have access to this data being weird, or the smart watch users, for example, in a particular region, maybe, okay, let's talk about, say, Gurgaon. If I get to know all the people who are less than 30 years of age and wearing this smartwatch, and I'm getting their data, pulse rate, BP, heart rate, how many steps they take, etc., I can definitely make a message for them, right? So it's the power of this data, that as I think someone mentioned about collecting that data, right? So yes, data is getting stored somewhere in one form or the other. So now once I stored this data, do I have the power to deal with that data in terms of insights, in terms of what should I do with data? Because if data is just lying in your system, you're not going to make sense of it, right? So that's the beauty of maybe going for the insights. Now, if I talk about, we discussed, it's essentially everywhere, definitely. Uh, Let me, yeah. So I think let's talk about, I think there are a couple of V's, which we have talked in the industry. You would have talked about, say, volume, velocity, variety, veracity, value, and variability. So volume, definitely. I think if you look at the kind of data which was being generated 20 years back compared to now, I think just because of the high-speed internet or the social media boom, and just because of these, like, I think everywhere, each and every place, we are generating data, and it is not like limited to any industry, I would say, right? Earlier it was said, oh, maybe some big shots like Apple or Google or Microsoft, I think they would be the only one, but no, I think the way they have designed their product, it is impacting each one of us. Velocity, by velocity is, of course, it is not that I'm going to get data or be able to store my data in a lot of time. I think the speed with which it is coming to us, or it is coming to the systems of a given organization, it is unimaginable compared to where we were 20 years back. So the speed with which data is coming, absolutely, um, you can't, you have to have your homework done to kind of how you will store that data. Variety, definitely. Variety is, of course, I may have a lot of systems where the data is coming from. I'm not really limited to only web data. It can be in form of my policy documents getting digitized. It can be in form of my personal data coming as a data set. I may be using a lot of APIs. APIs means ability to connect to external systems to get that data, etc. And of course, value, variability, veracity. It only talks about in terms of like, am I able to generate any value from that data? Uh, and then variabilities, of course. For example, today I'm getting data in certain ways, but tomorrow the front end of the system, the way we are interacting with the device, it may change completely, right? The way the data gets captured, it may change. So are we as an organization equipped to really handle that? I think these tenets are very important to understand that, first of all, we as a group understand what is data, how it is getting uh, accumulated, what is like, why is that we are talking so much about data, which is the fundamental, you can say, building block before really going into the analytics, right? So data is there, right? Now what we need is, we need some magic wand to kind of play with that data. And that's where, like, if we talk about analytics, right, it's an art ultimately, right? So of course we collect this data, we transform, we organize, and we try to make sense of it. And of course it's an art. Absolutely, we can't be like, for example, we go to movie theaters, right? We watch, we are actually, for some time, we are kind of so engrossed in that setup that we feel that we are part of that, right? So it's an art, definitely. If there is a lot of data, and trust me, organizations are not able to make sense of that data without the right talent, without the right skill set. Otherwise data is lying with them. So a lot of times we have heard from our customers, that, Pritesh, this is the data which we have lying. We do have people, but somehow the insights which we are able to generate, they're not making sense to us, right? Can you please help us? As simple as that, right? So forget about the, heavy jargons or ML, Gen AI. We're not going to talk about that, but right at the very fundamental data and how we can make sense of that. Again, it's all about how you observe, analyze, and then, of course, take actions is what we are talking about analytics. So I hope with data and analytics, it is clear to everyone. Feel free to chime in with your questions on the chat window, or if you want to ask right now, you can do that. Otherwise, we can take it at the end as well. Okay. So if everyone is fine, should I move to the next slide, or do we have any questions? So how to start, since the session is all about building career in this? So how we should start? I think, given the exposure we had in our respective careers, I think what we would want to tell to our budding candidates, and it's so interesting to have you guys there, like, because, for example, 20 years back, I do see myself in your shoes only, right? I was there, like you guys. Oh, where should I, or what kind of career should I really build? So definitely analytics was the calling at that time, and it is kind of, really shaping up well. So how we can begin, right? First thing first, I think, let's talk about programming language, right? So all of us, I'm sure, would have done some or the other bit of coding. If not, if you're not a computer science graduate, absolutely fine, you would have done something in your school, as simple as a SQL coding, for example. So yes, for a career, for a successful career in data analytics, you need to have some command, or at least a basic understanding of how someone, or how different languages are, or like how to do coding essentially. So you don't need to learn a plethora of languages, but at least, for example, in these days, Python is very recommended, right, as a data science or a data analytics language, or a SQL, kind of, anytime you kind of, in my school days, in my college days, even now, I think the very basic tenet of how do I really make sense of data is where SQL comes in pretty handy. So have your command on some of these, which we are mentioning. Programming languages, of course, can change with time. If you talk about 10 years, if I would have been meeting you 10 years before standing today, um, I would have talked about maybe SAS as a language, right? Things changed. Open source, kind of, world started to take a lot of impact, and then, things like R or Python, they really took the center stage. So yes, I think if you talk about right now, the focus, SQL can definitely be a focus. And from, if you kind of, once you do aggregate or play with data, I think Python is another recommended language you can, of course, focus on. Basic statistics, of course, you don't have to be a statistician to understand, or kind of thinking that, oh, what if I'm not, because just as example, I'm also not a stats person, I'm an engineering graduate. But of course, in our organization, we do hire people with stats background. So it's a combination of various skill sets. And the beauty about this field is that we don't need people from same background all the time. I think we need people with varied background, varied skill set, so that they can collaborate, they can come together on a table and then brainstorm and then devise solutions, of course. So that's where, like, basic statistics. So if you learn about statistics is what? For example, if the data is there, okay, what is the average, mean, maximum, mode, very basics. And then, of course, you start kind of taking on those concepts to apply. How do you really make sense of my population? Data visualization is another area. I think once you get hold of your data through the programming languages like SQL or Python, you may want to present that to your customer or to your audience. That's where data visualization tools come in handy. So things like Power BI, things like Tableaus, right? Um, uh, these are very strong tools in the market, by the way. And because, like, Microsoft as an organization has an offering or has a one or the other product with any organization. That's why you see Power BI getting or taking over Tableau these days of late. But yeah, both of them are pretty strong. Concepts remain same at the back end. Of course, the functionality little bit plus minus, but very very strong recommended kind of journey. Of course, data. If you just want to focus on data, SQL, Python can be your takeaways. And if you want to focus more on the visualization side, if you have a creative bend of mind, you like to play with data and present them, I think that is your strength. Then maybe data visualization is another journey you can imbibe, like, at least take a shot at. Of course, you have to, as a data analyst, as a data person, we have to be a storyteller ultimately, in terms of what is being there in the data hidden from organization, and to enable our organization, our customers, taking that data driven decisions, I would say. Okay. So that's pretty important. How can you do that? For example, someone says, Pritesh, yes, I know SQL, I know Python. Maybe what should I do? So I think practicing your projects, if you are trying to kind of learn it through some organization, definitely. But there is no stopping you kind of trying some of it yourself as well. Uh, uh, ID like Anaconda, there are multiple plethora. Microsoft also offers Visual Studio, etc. So there are free as well as paid, this integrated development environment, which we call IDE. So yeah, there you can practice with your SQL. SQL always provides that free SQL workbench. You can go and download it for free in your Windows, in your laptop. Try or develop your SQL skills, SQL queries, and of course, with the Cabell, Google Dataset, and some of these which are mentioned on your screen, I think they are an excellent website to provide you with raw data. So you don't have to really fetch or go somewhere. How will I get data, etc. There is a plethora and variety of data to kind of practice your skill sets. And what I would say is, don't really, if you're really starting on this journey, don't really think much about machine learning to begin with, is what I would say. So first of all, have your concepts pretty strong in how you deal with data. What sense can you make of that data? If you are able to answer that, I think that's where your journey to next ladder of machine learning or data science or Gen AI, etc., should begin, but not before you're able to make sense of data. So a lot of time people make that mistake. They don't want to understand data, or they don't understand data, and they straight away jump into machine learning. I think that is not a good practice in our experience. It's like, half cooked, and maybe sometimes you're not without your subject control, and you're trying to kind of just going haywire with your decision making. So my recommendation would be this. um, any questions before I pass over this to Mayank?
So, am I audible?
Yeah, Krishna, please go ahead.
As you said, as everyone knows, in data analyst, SQL is the most important thing.
Mm-hmm.
SQL, Excel, and Tableau or Power BI, three things. But
Yeah.
in programming language like Python, SAS, R programming,
Mm-hmm.
as I discussed with my colleague, I'm working in IDEMIA Syscom, right,
Yeah.
as a desktop support engineer. So I will. So I discussed with my employee on in my
Yeah.
company. He said in data analyst for a data analyst, programming language is not more important like Python. When you are going into data science, right? Then he said, then Python, any programming language you will be required. So I'm little bit
Yeah,
confused.
sure. Let me try to answer that, and maybe Mayank, feel free to add. So that's why, like, if you said, if you heard my comments, or maybe in my introduction, I always say technology or tools will change, and it can change anytime, right? So today it is Python. I think we are moving towards an area which is, for example, if you heard about Gen AI these days. So what the behemoths of the industry are trying to do is they are trying to provide you with a plug and play solutions as well, right? Where you don't have to spend a lot of time on actually coding it. They are giving you vanilla products, right? Why Python or why programming language hands-on is essential. What we recommend is because that gives you a lever to play with your data, be it SQL, be it Python, etc. It can be SAS as well. And if you have played with data, you will be able to make sense of your what you're trying to do or what you're trying to achieve. Otherwise, what happens is imagine a solution that I give you a plug and play solution which simply says, okay, this is the data which you imported, drag and drop, calculate the variance of this data set on a particular field, right? Now, at the backend, if you know what is the concept, why we are doing it, I think you'll be able to do justice to your work which you're trying to do. Otherwise, you straight away jump into the logical conclusion on that data basis some of these automated platforms. Definitely they give you an edge in terms of a head start, but sometimes you're just like left founded in terms of you are struggling to understand what how to make sense of it. And that's where your knowledge about playing with these tools helps, because it gives you that platform to play with data yourself rather than like an automated way to finally or vanilla kind of an offering, so to say. So programming languages helps you. You can say today it can be Python, it can change, and that's why I don't really pay emphasis on tools or technology, so to say,
Yes,
because
sir.
if you have a control on how the logical flow within a programming setup works, you'll be able to adjust automatically even in future as well, right? You don't have to really depend on Python today to be able to be you can say eligible for future jobs or future kind of technologies, etc. If your concepts are clear, you should be able to adapt. And see, Krishna, to your point, even now as a professional having spent this year, right, I have to learn new things continuously because the technology is rapidly changing, right?
Yes,
i
yes, sir. That's
I
the
can't be really, yeah, I can't be really relying on the fact that I just knew one thing 10 years before and I can kind of, because needs of the customers are changing, technology landscape is changing. 1 year before, no one knew about GPT, for example, right? It is totally, for example, whether people are able to implement it or not, but everyone wants to talk about it. Whether it is making sense about their business or not, but everyone wants to talk about it, right? So you
yeah,
have to have that knowledge built in your CV, in your skill set, to be able to first understand what it is that industry is really getting bombarded with, and then top of it, apply your skills, apply your business knowledge to be able to answer to those customer queries. Yeah, and hence to your question, absolutely, it does not matter if you want to learn it in some other tool of your choice or technology of your choice. Go ahead. That is not stopping.
no,
But
my thought.
play with data is what my recommendation is. Always play with data. Tool technology does not matter. Okay.
Okay, sir.
Yeah. So have that, like, as a DNA, where if you want to be part of this industry, always say that I love you data. Simple. I always say this.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Okay,
Uh,
thank you.
yeah. Thanks, Krishna. Interesting facts maybe I would want to cover before I hand it over to Mayank. I think, see, everyone is talking about it. I just kind of try to give you a sense that how different people are talking about data. It's the oil of 21st century, and of course, and it is a combustion engine. I'm sure you would have heard many of it. We are always surrounded by data, but starved for insight. So that means data is there in the market. We need good professionals who can make insights around that, and that's where data analytics definitely come through. Charles Babbage, again mathematician, we would have heard his name. So he's always emphasizing that using the inadequate data, if there are errors made, they would still be less than taking decisions without data at all. So that means everyone is kind of flooded with data. It's just that they need right skill set, right talent to make decisions about it. And You guys are definitely at the right stage of your career path to have taken this decision. So go for it is what I would say. And with that, I will pass over to Mayank to talk you or take you through some of the granular details around what courses or other options we have, which you can take advantage. Mayank?
Thanks, Pratish. So, everyone, my name is Man. I just want to talk to you about that what career paths we have and how we can focus on particular one career path or all of the above if you want. So, before I begin, so Krishna, to your question that you asked, that if you are eyeing for a data analyst, then programming language is not a mandatory requirement for that path. Is that right?
Yeah, my in my company where I basically he is facing his issue in his laptop, so he is sitting with me. So I I said to him, because he's also working as a data analyst. He's working on Power BI also. So
Hmm.
so basic things I talked with him.
No,
So he said,
so what it goes, Krishna. So, if we talk about data analytics, right? So it's a you can data analytics is all about how you collect the data, then how you
yes,
transform it, and how you derive information out of it, right? And if I talk about the data analyst part, that goes into that you have already transformed data available to you, and you just have to drive insights out of it. So data analytics, if you talk about on the whole, it also includes that how you want to collect your data. And if you want to collect your data from various sources, then programming language is a must if you want to go for a data analytic career path. But if you just want to focus for a data analyst part, where you already have it process information and process data, and just you need to drive some information out of it, then yes, you don't need a programming language. You are just good with any, you can say BI tool, like you mentioned, Power BI and something, and you're good to go. So that's how it's basically career path works with data analytics, and data analytics is basically a part of data analytic journey.
yes,
So
sir. Once we start the career in data analyst, so we I know I could learn very deeply in Python also, machine learning also, data science also. So this will be everyone learn for their future scope, right? And learning new thing is always, everything which you learn will never give sorry word नहीं मिल रहा है मुझे वो वो
it will
I think,
remain
yeah.
with you always, right?
It will remain with you always, right? So only he said to me. So I thought ki if we I when we know ki we have a master class with EXL, and also I thought ki I will be asked and got my answer.
So before I talk about this one, so I just wanted to ask everyone, can you, some of you, just give an example, anything that is, going around you guys, that how data is affecting you. I mean, you can take example of any sport, any shopping website, or anything that you can just think of, and I mean, and you will think that data analytics is within that, is so close to you that you won't even imagine. Like Pritish already talked about that you're wearing a smartwatch, and it is collecting so much data around you, and you're not even aware that how much data is getting collected out of you. Now, similarly, I'll say, like if I take example of the shopping sites that you see, or if some of you must be having Zomato app on your, I mean, on your phone. So it's a very interesting. I mean, I have noticed it like now from couple of times from last 3 or 4 months, that every month on the start and the 31st, it will give you a notification that your salary is credited. How about a salary mail? Like,
Yes,
right?
yes,
So and it's so much into taking information that it is 31st or first. So there are like 100% of chances that the person has their salary credited, and they're going to order something from Zomato. And if you even imagine, if you even notice in like in the cricket World Cup, whenever there was an innings break or someone scored a century or a 50, there was a notification from Zomato that Kohli has scored 100. How about you score 100 by ordering on Zomato as well, right? So that's how data analytics is so deep within us that sometimes we don't even realize, but they are using it again. I mean, for us, and sometimes it also works against us as well. I mean, I might be thinking that I'll just eat something at home, but I got a notification that how about a pizza, and now we'll order a pizza. So no, that's how the analytics. No. And even I'll give you an interesting example of a news that happened, I guess, 6 months back or something. So we all know that Mark Zuckerberg bought Twitter, right? Anyone is aware of it, right?
Um,
Yes.
Yeah, Mayank.
Elon Musk. Elon Musk.
Yeah. Oh, sorry, Elon Musk. So, and I mean, it was a very, normal thing for all of us that he wants to take over a company to, control the world or something. So, but how he wants to control the world, that was because he wants to buy the Twitter. Now, what was the strategic reason behind buying a Twitter was because Tesla was the only, say, a multi-millionaire giant company who was not owning any data-driven platform. So you can take an example of Google. They have their own data-driven platform, Google, where they can collect a lot of data. Microsoft has already. We have our teams. In our systems, we have Microsoft Windows. They're taking a lot of data. They have their search engine, Microsoft Bing. It is taking a lot of data from us. iPhone, Apple is taking a lot of data through our phones. And similarly, but and of course, Meta. We are having Facebook. We are having WhatsApp. Everything, and they are get taking a lot of data from us to do data analytics, data science, and machine learning and AI programming. But Tesla was the only company who was not owning a data platform where they can drive patterns that how a human behavior is happening. So this was the one also a key, you can say, point that why they went for a tutor, because it has a lot of data that will show that how the human behavior works. So this, so you can think that how the data is getting important for even not for small companies, but also the giant companies that we always eye for. So that's how the biggest data industry right now. So now, if I talk about that, what career options we have. So mostly, when we say that we want to enter into data analytics field, it always starts with SQL. So because the three main reasons for it is that first of all, it is easiest of all. I mean, if I'm a novice and I have a Python in hand and I have a SQL in hand, then I'll go with SQL because it is very easy and very, you can say, you can just learn it in like 1 or 2 weeks. That's all. And the second reason for is that it has free versions of you can get free versions of SQL everywhere, and the tools that support SQL are very free, and you don't need a very big system to install them as well. So that's why whenever someone wants to build a career using in data analytics, SQL is the first thing that person go to. Now let's say that you are good with SQL, and now what options that you can see that you can have. So for if you are familiar with SQL, and SQL, I talk about MySQL, Oracle, my MS Excel. So in that way, once you have no knowledge in either of these, you can apply for a SQL developer job or a developer job. Now, what happened in SQL developer? Many companies have a lot of tons of data in a database. They need someone who can write a query out of it and take the data out of the system. So that's how the SQL developer job happens. And the report developer, what happened? So similarly, like a SQL developer, when so I give an example. For example, if for a financial company, there must be a lot of there must be the data worth ton of GBs. So now when they want to get a report out of it, they don't know how to write a SQL to join like hundreds or hundred and two hundreds of table directly. So that's how the SQL knowledge comes handy. And the person, there is a designation called report developer, that you will be given a requirement from a client that this is the report that I want. Just for example, I want to know that how many transactions are happening in a particular area for this particular region. So this is a very simple example that I gave. So according to that, just give me a report accordingly. So then you will just write a normal a SQL on your, you can say you can workbench or anything, and you can get the report out of it. So that's how the SQL, if you are interested in SQL, these two are the main category of jobs that you can aim for. Now, like Krishna mentioned, that if you are interested in like a data analyst part or something, then in data analyst also three main categories of job openings we get in industry. So one is report generation using automated tools. So for example, you know that how Power BI works. So I can be do a report generation using Power BI. I can be a Power BI developer where I will generate dashboards for the end user so that they can drive information out of it. And there's also word that say business intelligence, that is BI developer. So does everyone know what is BI developer do and how that particular thing works? So I'll take it as you know.
No,
So
sir.
okay. So basically, what happened? For example, you are a Power BI developer, right? And
Oops,
one, hello, sorry.
you were saying maybe you would like to repeat the question.
Yeah, I was saying that for the there's a term business intelligence (BI). So is everyone aware that what is a BI and how does this works in data analytic journey? I
Uh,
can
can you brief little bit about it? Then it's great.
sure, sure. So mostly what happened, suppose you are creating dashboards over Power BI, right? But before creating dashboards, there has to be a data modeling setup in place so that you can drive dashboards out of it. So the person who is responsible for creating those data models is basically BI developer. So what happened? We have some raw data, we transform it and take some information out of it. Now even that information has to be modeled in a way, so if I'll use a Power BI or any other Tableau or something, then I can get the data out of it. So for that thing, it is very important that we have structures in place, like we have database. So similarly, for a you can say a tool like Tableau, Power BI, there has to be a data organization that has to be set up. Either it has to be like logical tables, it has to be physical cubes, it has to be data cubes. That thing is achieved using BI. So in BI, what we usually do, we segregate a data into different components. For example, I have a data that has some transactions and that has some departments. Now the BI developer will plan the data, transactions and department in a way that if you just go to Power BI and you just click a button that how many transactions are happening per department, within a click only you will get your data. So that's basically a responsibility of BI developer to provide the infrastructure so that your data analyst can work on top of it. Uh, is that clear? Or I can elaborate more on it if required. And the last thing, if you want to, target for a programming language, I know that to begin with, the programming language is not very easy in that you can get hold of it. But if you are still trying that I want to get a programming language, for example, like Python or like R or something, then I'll say it is one of the best thing that you can actually choose. Because when you go for a data analytic part, it says collection, transformation, and then analysis. And the data analyst and the SQL things mostly affect on the transformation, some of the transformation part and some of the data analysis part. But if you really want to make some impact in the collection and the transformation of part of data analytics, then programming language is something that you can surely target. Because for example, like if you are using Python or if you're using PySpark, then even in the programming languages, the jobs are segregated by the activity that you're doing. So if you just know, so the Python is very for example, a Python is very large programming language. But if you just know that what are the libraries in Python that are used to collect data, then you can just apply as a data collection engineer. What it does that it includes that how you are collecting data from normal websites, how you're collecting data from like live streaming, how you're collecting data from a web page, how you're collecting data from social media sites. Now these are the kind of roles and responsibilities that no one actually talk about, but this is something that is actually in very much demand. Uh, so right now in the world, it is like 60% of the data is organized and 40% of data is unorganized. Now most of the organizations have already tapped that what organized data we have, but now the companies are eyeing after that what kind of unorganized data we can also put into our system so that we can drive insights out of it. So that's how this the data collection capability gets into the picture. That if there is a person who can just gather data from a website, for example, you are scrolling Facebook over your using your PC. Now from whole your Facebook page, which button you clicked, with search, what all the searches you do, with which whose profile you check twice or thrice. I mean, all these things, if we can just fetch this data and put it into a company system that actually worth a million. So that's how the data collection, if you just know data collection side of Python, then you can apply for this job. Now let's say that you don't want to collect data, you are just interested in data transformation. Now for the data transformation, if you just know pandas in Python, numpy in Python, then you can build easily data transformation pipelines for a company. So if you are into data transformation side, then the jobs like data engineers mostly do this kind of activity, that you collect data from a source, then you do some transformations using Python. And if their transformation using Python, mostly it is in pandas and numpy only. I mean, 80% of the transformation being done using these two libraries in Python. And then the processed data you can push into any database or a data warehouse solution. Now, there's a post that says big data engineer. So basically, if instead of Python, if you're using like a big data technologies like PySpark or Hadoop, then that categories comes into that says big data engineer. And the third category is basically an ETL engineer. So in ETL engineer, it's basically like a extended version of data engineer. Data engineer is responsible uh, to create an end-to-end pipeline, but the ETL engineer, it just focuses that how I want to just fetch some data out of the system, do some transformations either by SQL or using pandas, NumPy, and then just load the data into another target system. So that's how the ETL engineer activity. Now, interestingly, I mean, these are the most common jobs that I'm just talking about. But if you say like, if I want to give examples, some like non-corporate kind of things as well. Now, you must be know that we have IPL happens in India. Like now, for every franchise that is competing in IPL, they have their sports, and so now there's a new job that's coming into market, that's a sports analyst. So what they do, they just take data of this all the players, that how the players has been performing from last past years, and then they drive analytics on top of it, that what are the chances that this player is going to perform in this particular match in this particular pitch. So this is how I mean, if new now jobs are getting into market, not the these kind of things, but the jobs outside corporate also. If you're interested in data analytics, there's a lot of scope that we can leverage using data analytics. So any question or any doubt on either of the career path, or anything you have in your mind that you want to ask about?
I saw this, Krishna. If you don't mind, please brief a little bit about Tableau also. Yeah.
Yeah. So for me, I mean, Tableau and Power BI are the same BI tool. So like, for example, if you're a Power BI developer, right? So basically, the same job works for a Tableau developer as well, where you already have your data cubes already, and you just have to create some dashboards, take data out of it, send reports to the end user. So by Power BI, I mean it's not just Power BI; it is Tableau, Sisense, ClickView, and a couple of other BI tools as well. So the path for Power BI, Tableau, ClickSense, Matillion, that remains the same for all of these BI tools. So you're focusing on the being a Tableau sitting
No,
job.
no, no, no. If I if I am get very good in Power BI, then I will switch on my same company.
Okay. So I mean, if I guys just give you an example that how my career path went. So I joined when I joined my first organization. I was working as a SQL support engineer. So I worked like there for like 2 years. Then I get an opportunity to work as a BI developer, and then for 2.5 years I worked as a BI developer, where we were using Power BI and Sisense. I used to just create some dashboards and reports, and meanwhile I learned Python using while I was doing Power BI stuff. And eventually I moved into ETL engineer first, where I was just doing some transformations. And eventually in EXL, I got the opportunity to being a data engineer. Now I'm working as a data engineer now. So I mean, I can resonate that how is it to get into a data analytics, because I was a Java developer when I started this journey, but and this industry made me data engineer now. But I'm loving my work right now. So yes, so this is how what are the career paths you have. And now I have put some courses that you can follow, and these all free courses that you can just take an idea that how I mean, based on the career path that we discussed in the previous slide, I have just make some points of some notes of the courses that can help you to achieve those career paths. So first we have, if you just want to learn Python, like how the data analytics, what is the role of Python in data analytics, then you can go for the first Python underscore GL. And then I have there's a second course that says SQL for data engineering. Like now in the SQL for data engineering, it's just not a plain SQL, but it says that how you can do your transformations using SQL for a data pipeline. And then there's a big data that I talk about. If you're not interested in Python, but you want to go for a PySpark or Hadoop, then you can take an idea of it. And Power BI, it's there, and data analysis. So now it says that how the analytics is different from data analysis. So when we do data analysis, it is mostly that your data is almost ready, and you just have to do some formulas to check out that how your data is performing. So if you're not interested in like collecting data or transformation data, then what is the role of Python to use only data analysis? So this course talks about that. And in the last, we have pandas and numpy. Like if you are interested in like how the data stats work, how the transformation or data frames happen. That if I have like hundred of files of like hundred of GBs, how I can just combine and take insights out of data. Then pandas and plus numpy is the course that you can look out for.
Yeah. And just to add to what Mayank was mentioning, again, we are not saying that we are not endorsing these courses, so to say that these are the kind of the courses, or they are not better courses than this, but it gives you a flavor in terms of what we want to say, right? So feel free to visit them, and I'm sure some of you might have already done similar courses, but at least it gives you a flavor, it gives you a mapping of what kind of role you are looking for versus what is there in form of these courses. So yeah, please feel free to go ahead and explore similar courses, if not these as well. So it's plethora of courses available in the market, whether you want to pay for it or you want to go free courses, etc. So it's just that in the mind, you should be clear what journey I want to embark on and the corresponding knowledge you would want to have. Mayank, I think we had an interesting Excel as well. Do you want to cover it
Yes, yes.
after questionnaire, or can we cover it right now?
I can cover it right now. I mean, it will take
Yeah,
us
and
like.
maybe let's open it for questions. So we have some kind of real data which we have captured from our day-to-day kind of exposure these days. So we would like to cover that as well. But before that, any questions from anyone? I think content-wise we are good from a coverage perspective. But yeah, in case there are any open questions, we are happy to take them.
The most relevant example that I could get of is I love cricket, so I basically get a example related to cricket only. So what I did, I mean, before that, the activity that I did for it was that using Python web scraping, I took this data from a website using web API URLs and a beautiful soap. So I did this data collection and put it in a CSV. So that part I have already done. So now this is a sheet of data which says that what are the match numbers. These are the batsman name, team, how many runs that particular player scored in that particular match, how many balls it faced, four sixes, and who was the bowler that got him out. So if I take an example in a data analytics journey, so first part was data gathering or a data collection. So for that, I use Python and APIs of beautiful soap in Python, and collected this data and put it in Excel form. So now my data collection part is done. And now I have this data in an organized form in a CSV format. Now, if I want to do some analysis on top of it, so what I'll do, I'll apply some formulas on top of it. So I have what I did for from all these matches, 56 matches, I take how many unique players I have from this sheet, right? And for that, I used as a particular formula. Now to get insights out of it, like how many how many which player has scored the how many maximum force a player has hit. So for the example, a Diamond Convoy has scored a maximum of 16 fours and 15 sixes. Basically, how many total runs he has scored and how many total balls it has faced. So basically, using some formula, I have so after data gathering, I have prepared this data using some transformations. I have used some formulas to do this data transformation. Now this is the transform data that I have. Now using that data, I can gather some analysis out of it that can help me to take some decision based upon what kind of data I got. So I tried to build a chart out of it that has balls and runs, and that has balls in y-axis and runs in the x-axis. If as a data analyst, if I want to take, taken, you can say information out of it or a data out of it, I can think in a way that most of the players lie in a range of 400 runs only. I mean, this is the part where most of the players are lying. So now, for all the players who are outside this 500 bar, these are my special players because these are the players that are continuously scoring high. So what I'll do, so for example, this is a data, this is the final data that I have got. Now, if most of you must might have been using like Dream 11, like these gaming apps, right? Now, in when you make a team in Dream 11, you choose some points. Like if you're choosing a particular player, you have 9 credits for it. If you're choosing a particular batsman, you have 8 credits for it. So how it gets decided at which player will get which credit. So these are the data that helps the organization that how the credits for a particular player should be decided. So for example, if this is a player, for example, this is a player X who has scored close to 800 runs is the and more less than 500 balls. So if I'm keeping this player in like Dream 11 or something, it has to be with the player with the credits 11. And if I talk about any average player who has scored like 300 runs with ball 250, it this player will have a credit of like 7 only. So that's how the data insights works in a real time. Now this is an example of like normal Excel sheet, right? And it is not even like 10 MB. But if you get similar kind of Excel sheets that has like 2-3 GB per file, and you have like hundreds of Excel file, getting in parallel, then you can't just do apply this formula in Excel and get the insights out of it. For that, you need like tools like SQL. You can use tools like Python. So basically, these are the same formulas will get implemented either by SQL or either by Python. So it's like you're just changing that how you're implementing the formula, but the formula at the end will gonna remain the same. But it's like the when the bulk of the data gets start coming, then these small applications will not do. But you need some like automation tool or like automated way that your data keep coming and your analysis and data is and insights out of it is keep coming. So that's how the data analytics work in like real time.